Let's check in with Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine. Joe, hello to you. I want to start by sharing a text from one of our listeners. After listening to Joe Lindsley talk about the war in Ukraine and what the people are going through over there, it made Thanksgiving even more meaningful for me in appreciation of how fortunate we are in this country and how fragile the freedoms we enjoy are as we pray for the Ukraine in their struggle and also for Joe. I think a lot of us feel that way, Joseph.
Wow, Bob, thanks so much to that listener and to you for that. We can feel that strength over here in Ukraine. You know, Thanksgiving Day in the USA marked 9 months since February 24th, since Russia's full-scale war on this country. Think about, the American spirit of freedom. We look at the scenes now in China, people, trying to have the right to live freely. The same thing we see in Iran. The more free people can stand together, the better chances we have of surviving. In Lviv, where we have had a few days of calm, it can even be easy sometimes because people adapt so well, to forget what's going on. And so the power goes out, the restaurants immediately light the candles, the staff will play music on their phones. And yesterday I was showing the Canadian journalist around, and if you had just arrived here, you could say, oh, maybe everything seems okay. And then I was speaking with some friends, and one of them told me that a mutual friend of ours had lost his leg in the intense battles in Bakhmut. And so you're never far away from the horrible reality of the war. And in fact, that friend who lost his leg back in the summer, I mentioned him to you guys because he and his comrades were listening to our broadcast, Bob. They were in the trenches listening to WGN. And fortunately, my friend survived, but now he's got to live life without a leg.
We see those folks on the news. We hear about it, and it's heartbreaking. But for you, it's personal.
And you see great defiance. For example, my friend Yaroslav, he owns a jazz club in Odessa, and he wrote on Facebook over the weekend, the Russians have trained us out. The power is too small. Instead of fear, we have immunity. Because with each of these attacks every week, it is very difficult, but Ukrainians are learning how to survive with limited electricity. And so he said the complete blackout of Odessa doesn't scare anyone anymore. Everyone walks around and continues working like nothing is happening.
We have such such admiration for the resolve of the people there. I was listening to a U.S. military expert talking about the war and what the Ukraine strategy might be, and he said that's a very good question because we're looking at a very long slog here unless we get much more help from the United States and other Western countries. What's the feeling over there?
There's a need for more of the long-range weapons that have helped Ukraine stand its ground. I think it's important to remember, I think we forget this sometimes, even here, Ukraine doesn't attack Russian territory. Moscow is not getting hit. Little villages, simply 2 miles across the border in Russia from Ukraine are not under attack. They have energy and electricity. If they don't have electricity, it's their own Russian infrastructure problems. But so this is, when in the history of warfare have we seen, despite Ukraine's battlefield successes, they've restrained themselves from attacking Russia. They're only seeking to defend. But that also, it's, how can you stop Moscow without actually going, for the Russians? And so these are big questions we're going to be facing these next months. Meanwhile, Ukrainians know they have, to keep building the resilience because Russia cannot win on the battlefield. They can resort to hitting the infrastructure. And even in the recently liberated territories in Kherson, where people have been celebrating, it's not easy there because the Russians continue to send missiles and artillery fire to those places. On Thanksgiving, there was a Chicago native here in Lviv, Chef Rob Newey. He's a U.S. Special Forces veteran, native of Chicago. He's got an organization called UA Lifeline. They work with refugees. And he hosted a Thanksgiving dinner for Americans and Ukrainians and many of the other foreigners who are here to help. So we were able to enjoy the holiday a little bit. And in fact, in Lviv, we had not had even an alarm since I spoke to you last Wednesday. So it's sort of these strange days of quiet, waiting to see, what Russia will get up to next. But 9 months, it takes a toll, and especially these past weeks where we have significant difficulties throughout Ukraine getting heat and power as the winter sets in. Hello from Blackout Tel Aviv. Marco Porco, still going. Dmitry, show te hotuvaish.
Show must go on.
Show must go on.
Show must go on.
Keep it going. With good spirits and great food.
І ми переможемо.
До перемоги.
До перемоги.
Дякую.
As I've said before, Joseph Lindsley, world's most interesting man.
This I find in my garden. It's peace from rocket.
Help us to win in this war.